Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy. Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We have quite the episode today. I've been talking to you for 20 minutes. I don't know if I could get into it. This is going to be a heavy one, but it has to be done. It's time. It is time. This guy is far creepier than I ever expected. Just in case you are new to the show, we are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. What goes on is that one of us talks about a creep, and then the other one is challenged to come up with a non-creep. That way, you won't leave the show feeling that the whole world is a big goddamn dumpster fire. Hopefully, our non-creep today will help make up for that. We think he's pretty fantastic.
Yes, we do.
But let me just begin by saying that you could find us. We do have a basic Facebook page. People usually use that one just to complain about our language. Just warning, we use salty language.
Fuck yeah.
We do have a private Facebook group. That's the best place to interact with us. You do have to answer a few questions to get into the group. But once you get in there, it's a really nice, safe space. We keep it that way. And that's where we talk about creeps from the past to the present. We make each other laugh. Like this week, I found an image of Kid Rock that looks just like Dr. Phil if he were to dress up like Kid Rock. Somebody else, by the way, I gave them credit for it.
Yes.
It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. But we just try
love
to
it.
Keep it loose. Keep it fun. We're at Twitter we're on CreepPod at Twitter because somebody had What a Creep for 10 years on Twitter and never used it.
Creep.
We're on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast, and we have a basic old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. You can send us suggestions for creeps and non-creeps, and if you would like some stickers, we are happy to drop them in the mail for you. Just once again, that's whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
And we have a website.
Tell them about it.
Yeah, it's at whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about our podcast, but we're afraid to ask. And it has links to all of our episodes from season 5 on, because season 4, 3, 2, 1, all behind the Patreon wall. And you can find a link to our Patreon there. More in a minute. And there's also a link to our merch shop where you can get t-shirts and journals and tote bags and something called a zipper pouch that Margot and I were just talking about before we hit record. And they're very nifty.
They are nifty. And what we're thinking of doing, if y'all are interested, is Patreon offers a yearly membership. So you just have to pay the one time, and we'll figure out a discounted rate. And then if you sign up for that, we will send you some kind of tchotchke, some kind of merch that fits you. Like what could be that kind of like little tote bag or notebook or the little Ziploc bag you were just talking about now. Not Ziploc. That's what I use every day.
We will send you a used Ziploc bag that Sonia has rinsed out and put on the dry rack again because she's fucking cheap.
And see, I throw everything into recycling because I refuse to use them again. I'm like, oh no. I'm like an old lady. I'm like, well, this is barely dirty. I will just rinse it out and dry it out. That's why we're friends. Let us know if you're interested in that for Patreon. We also do 2 bonus episodes, and we have a newsletter that goes out once a month. So all those things, if you want to help support the show. If money's tight, believe us, we totally get that. Just leave us a review wherever you get your podcast. Spotify is now taking reviews. If you listen through Spotify, that'd be amazing. Or iTunes, leave us 5 stars. It helps, offset the 1-star assholes that like to come out.
Yeah, or ask for those stickers and like put them somewhere where people could see them. And if money is tight, you should totally rinse out your Ziploc bags and just dry them and use them again, because that's what I do. And it's totally fine. No judgment.
Put your snacks in there. Go to the coffee shop. Open up your laptop. Everybody can see the sticker, and then turn to the person next to you and go, have you heard of this podcast? Do all of that.
Yes. But don't be a creep about it.
Sonia, I'm stalling because we have to get into this.
I know. We have to do it.
All right.
It's time. We've been putting this one off since the beginning. So it's time.
It's time, everybody. We're talking about Hugh Hefner today. Ay, 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 this creep. On September 17th, 2017, Hugh Marston Heffner died at the age of 91. He was hailed in the press for decades as being solely responsible for the sexual revolution of the 50s and 60s.
Yes. Thanks, Hugh. Thanks, Hef.
For being a champion of civil rights, a First Amendment warrior, a philanthropic person, and a hero to women who would be still stuck at home with sexless lives if it were not for his brand, Playboy. Now,
I take issue with so much of that, and I think you do too. Okay,
just
Here
buckle up, everybody. He managed to die just a few weeks before the Me Too movement began, with the first articles about Harvey Weinstein were played out in the media about shitty people who like to decry cancel culture ever since. In this episode, I will talk about the many ways Hef used manipulation to control and dominate the lives of people who worked for him, and the horrendous legacy of his relations with women that lasted for decades at the Playboy Mansion and beyond, including all the women that worked for him. We will get into the Playboy clubs, trigger warnings, sexual assault, rape, drug use, animal abuse. I will go very slight with that because we are animal lovers here, but I have to.
Yeah.
Okay. My source is The Independent, InTheseTimes.com, the LA Times, A&E Network's Secrets of Playboy. This has been going on weekly. There's about 10 episodes out. They're actually putting out 2 additional episodes. They've been getting the highest ratings they've had in years. And the shit that's coming through there is unbelievable. American Playboy, excuse me, that's the Hugh Hefner story. That's some dumb shit that's on Amazon. I did watch it, though, because I'm here for you guys.
You are.
Down the Rabbit Hole, a book by Holly Madison.
I don't get it.
Playground, a child lost inside the Playboy Mansion by Jennifer Saganor. Her father was Hugh Hefner's best friend and his doctor for several decades. Elle Magazine, The Garden, Slate, Nita McCullum and Medium, and Variety. Here we go. Just really quickly, his background. He was born April 9th, 1926. He grew up in a house that was very Methodist, and he likes to make it sound like it's like so terrifying to grow up Methodist and restrictive. It's like, try being Catholic, asshole, or, you know. All right. He had a girl that he was really interested when he was in high school or college. He didn't masturbate until he was 18 because he was so sexless and so restricted. He had a girl that he had a crush on, asks her out, and she says no, and she went out with a friend of his instead. And he said, and people use her name all the time to say, that just stuck in his craw. People are allowed to say no to you, by the way.
Yes.
Just, you know, so no, I'm not going to mention her name because fuck that.
Yeah.
He did get married he did serve in World War II, so he does get points for that.
Okay.
When he comes back, his girlfriend Mildred Williams, they're getting ready to get married, and she admits to him, you know, when you were gone, I had a fling with somebody. And he was devastated. And then they get married in 1949. And then he says he basically used that in order to have sex with other women when they were married.
Sounds healthy.
Sounds very healthy. Look, this is the 50s, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He marries Mildred. He tries a few different jobs. He works as a copywriter for Esquire magazine. He's based in Chicago. In 1959, he's so fed up with working, with everything. He has this manifesto. And I always want to say that like Dabney Coleman in that movie. The Dragnet movie, Manifesto.
Oh, yeah. Manifesto.
His was about men should be living bigger lives, more important lives. They came back from
super repressed.
Very repressed. And he's not wrong. I mean, it's the 50s. There was a book out called The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit. I don't know if you ever heard about it. It was just basically about men coming home from World War II, and then they were getting these office jobs, and they went from having this exciting life where every day, you know, you could be killed and living at that height, and then you're just a drone in an office.
Yeah. Okay. That's an adjustment. I get it.
Adjustment. Okay. I totally get it too. And he's saying, well, life is deserved to be lived. He was well read. He was intelligent, and he liked cocktails, and he loved jazz music. He also was really into the civil rights movement years before everybody else. He did not see any problem with African American people being allowed to do anything. And this is in the Jim Crow era.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1953, he starts Playboy magazine. He borrows some money from his mom. He gets some investors, buys, I've seen $50 and $500. There's different, okay. But he buys an image of a woman who becomes Marilyn Monroe, but she gave another name. Mm-hmm. And she did these photos in 1949 when he got married, when she was a struggling actress and she had rent to pay. And this is a story, we're going to hear about from other women too. He does this several times, by the way.
Yes.
2 women. He buys the images. He puts her on the cover of the magazine. He makes her the centerfold. She's the first nude centerfold. This magazine sells 50,000 copies. Marilyn never got a penny. And he instantly becomes a star. Mm-hmm. Playboy, it becomes a hit. And at first it's just boobs and kind of covered, and then gradually over time it gets a little more nude. Basically the nudity rises over the years. In 1959, he moves to Chicago. There's this gorgeous mansion. He's getting divorced. Gorgeous property. He starts a TV show, and it's called Playboy's Penthouse. Sort of like Saturday Night Live before there was a Saturday Night Live. It's a show that has music, and it has the hoi polloi, the people that are in the culture. And it's, for the time, it's a big deal. He has black people on the show with white people. And he has somebody like Nat King Cole on the show. And he doesn't just come on and sing and then walk away. Like, he comes over to the couch. And there's one episode that I posted in our Facebook group, but you could look for it for yourselves. And I think it's super interesting because, and it's like a while, it's like an hour and a half. But he has Nat King Cole, and then he talks to Nat King Cole about jazz music and stuff. And then he brings Lenny Bruce. And Lenny Bruce, if you've watched Mrs. Maisels, he's doing his shtick, and he's sometimes funny. And I'm not the biggest Lenny Bruce fan of all time. I like the guy that plays him in Mrs. Maisels. I think he's hot. But anyway.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The other guest that he had that in that show was a woman named Rona Jaffe. And she wrote a book called The Best of Everything. And it was made into a movie in 1959. Did you ever see this movie?
No.
It's fabulous. It's about a group of women that move to New York. Hope Davis is one of the women. And they move to New York and they get these jobs and offices. And then they have romances with different men. And some of them have romances with married men. And some of them they're just all having sex. They're just New York City girls. And of course, someone gets pregnant and someone has a bad marriage and something like that. But it was racy for the time. So
writing that down.
The Best of Everything.
Okay.
Fabulous movie. Rona is one of the guests on the show, and she's just sitting there, and she's like 27, 28 years old, Jewish girl, totally adorable, just completely just being fun and vivacious. Hugh and his publisher kind of sit on opposite sides of her, and the publisher says, so you wrote this book, and it's all about women and having sex everywhere and that kind of thing. It's very racy. And she says, well, it's about a lot of things, and she's trying to answer the question. He goes, all right, I'm going to be rude, but I'm going to ask you a real question because I hate these interviews with authors that are all nice and whatever. He says to her, the publisher, why do you want to be a writer? Isn't that a lonely job? Isn't it lonely just to be in your apartment and writing all day and having these thoughts? Why would you want to do this for a living? And she's like, because I like writing. It's fun. I have a good time with it. And then Hugh Hefner's like, so you enjoy writing about these women that have all these problems? And she's like, I wrote a book that I think is fun. And then one of them says, you got some bad reviews, didn't you? And she's like, well, most of my reviews were actually really kind. I was really excited. And Hugh says to her, this is what we call the feminization of men. And this is what we're against with Playboy magazine. And then he gets up from the couch and walks away from her. And this is my big problem with Playboy. This is and it starts from the beginning. Everything is about men and what men want. not what women want from sex. Here's a woman writing about sex from her experience or her friends' experiences, what she went through working in publishing in New York City, and he's just walking away like,